Now let's look at what happens when there's an extra variable on either side, or so not, when there's a variable on either side. So first, I want to show you here. Notice that on this side, there are no terms that are alike. There's one with an x and one without. On the other side, there's one with an x, one without. So this is not like the previous section. This is a different idea where we have an x on the left and an x on the right. What we need to do here, and I will always say, you need to get rid of the smaller or the more negative x. There's a 5x and a 3x. So goal number 1 is always to combine like terms, but there's no option for that right now. Goal number 2 after that is to get the x's to one side. Now up above, the instructions were get it to the left, but I'm actually just always going to move the smaller or more negative one. To move a x, you just need to add or subtract it to the other side. So I see a 3, it's a positive 3x, therefore I will just subtract it over to this side. And what that does is it cancels those out. 3x minus 3x is 0. So let's write down what we have. On the right-hand side, that's gone, and all we're left with is a 13. And here we've got a 7. And then 5x minus 3x is 2x. And now this looks like a typical two-step equation. We can get rid of the add or subtract. We need to get the x alone, so we can get rid of the add or subtract, and then we can get rid of the multiply. So we can get rid of the addition by minusing 7 from both sides. So that's gone. So I've got on the right 13 minus 7 is 6. And then there's a 2x on the left. Now that says 2 times x, so we can divide by 2. Divide by 2. Cancel those out. And x is equal to 3. And that's that. So step number 1, move over the small, well, step number 1 would typically be combine like terms, but there was none of those, so we skipped it. Step number 2 was move over the smaller x. 3 is a smaller number than 5. So we moved it over by subtracting it. We subtracted it because it was a positive. That's a positive 3x, which is why I subtracted it. And then after that, we just followed along like normal. So we just brought over the 7 by subtracting, and then divided the 2 by, or moved over the 2 by dividing. Remember that was a positive 3. So let's do that here. For B, we need to make sure we combine any like terms first. On the right-hand side, there's an x and something without, so that these ones are not alike. And over here, they are also not alike. Once we know that there's nothing that's alike, we've dealt with that, we can move over the smaller or more negative x. So I've got a 9x and a negative 3. And the negative 3 is the more negative one. So I'm going, or the more smaller, however you want to think of it. I think of it as more negative. So because it's a negative 3x, I'm going to add 3x. And that's because negative 3x and a positive 3x will get me 0. So that completely eliminates it. But I have to do whatever I do to the left, I need to do to the right. Let's write down what we have. So there's a negative 13 on the left equals a 9x and a 3x gets me 12x. And there's a positive 11. And now, like I've said so many times, you need to get the x alone. So first it says plus 11, so we'll minus it. And on the right-hand side, I've got my 12x. Whoops, because those are gone. I got my 12x, and on my left, I got negative 13 and negative 11, which is a negative 24. And this is a 12 times x, so I will divide by 12, and that way those are gone, and divide this by 12. Therefore, x is equal to 24 over 12 is 2, and it is negative. So I'll zoom out here. So you can see step number 1, combine any like terms. There are none. Step number 2, move the smaller or more negative x. In this case, I moved over the 3 because it's smaller than 5. And in this case, I moved over the negative 3 because it's smaller than 9. To move it over, you have to add or subtract it. This was a positive 3, so I subtracted it. This was a negative 3, so I added it. And then after that, it turns into a two-step question, which we had done last chapter. So what we're going to do in example 3 is we're going to put these two ideas together. So that's what we're going to do in the next video. But for now, I'll just zoom in here and you can make any notes that you need to make.